Hello and welcome to our Learn the Lessons interview series where I, Phil Webster, interview successful people from across all different walks of life, from sport to health, education and business. Our goal here is to learn the key lessons to success from the successful. Every day we are learning, so why wouldn't we want to learn from those people that have already achieved what we want? Today I am interviewing Lachlan Elsworth. Lockie is the CEO and founder of the I Love Trading global brand. He is the trading systems architect behind the International Day Trading Academy in Australia. He's a founding partner of Beyond Capital Asset Management for your side hustle property development. He's an author of 3 books and the co-author of the international bestseller, Millionaire Mentor. I am super excited to be learning the lessons from this guy today. So without further ado, hello and welcome, Lockie.
Hello, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for the intro. You absolutely nailed it.
Well, mate, listen, let's dive in. I'm really interested to get into the meat of this. So
cool.
Lockie, tell us, what have been along your journey so far that we call life? What have been the most important lessons that you have learned along your journey so far?
Wow, man, that's an awesome question. I could come straight back at you and say, hey, do you want the military lessons, or do you want the finance lessons, or the love lessons?
Mate, let's go one at a time.
Okay. Geez, the best army lesson is keep your head down. That would be my army lesson. Mate, the life lesson. I mean, we can joke about love and all this kind of stuff. The life lesson, my life lesson may not be that popular with people. So if you don't mind, in the book writing world, in the education world, I'm a little bit of a contrarian. So if I find a problem with a system, or I find a problem with the way that something is done, I'll just go and fix it. Now, in saying that, I keep hearing from people over and over and over again, money won't buy you happiness. Now, may I disagree with this, if that's all right? Money doesn't buy you happiness, sure, but it does buy you toys. It buys you the freedom to do what you want when you want. Effectively, mate, money buys you choices, full stop. Now, whenever I, get the opportunity to public speak or similar things, I'll say to people quite categorically, money doesn't buy you happiness. There's no question about that. But man, it goes a long way to giving you choices. Now, those choices might be to work for 2 hours a day on something you're really passionate about, or to, for example, we recently had my 5-year-old's athletics carnival, and I was the only dad working in the canteen on a Friday, and it was like, wow, where are all the other dads? Like, what's going on? So, and look, I'll agree with the fundamentalists. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but mate, I tell you what, some of the people I'm working with, some of my clients that have got many, many millions of dollars in the bank, they will say to me, Lockie, we love what you're doing. Keep striving, keep working. You're gonna crack this. There's no doubt. And yet, the people that criticize that sort of that mentality of let's just get wealthy and then we'll find out what it's like. The people that criticize that are generally those people that have no real wealth. So they might be, someone, that got lucky with a lotto or won a house or do something like that. So these people have these opinions about wealth and about money that are basically one generation old, whereas the people I personally get mentored by in terms of wealth and wealth generation are 3, 4, 5, 6 generation super wealthy, or what I refer to in the finance industry as high net individuals. Mm-hmm. So the number one lesson I've learned, having spent 15 years in the military, where you have a great adventure where you don't get paid very well. Okay, so 15 years in the army doesn't buy you private schools for your children. There's no doubt about that. My greatest lesson would be, don't be shy about chasing the money. Don't be shy to say, you know what? I've found a great way to make some really good money. I've found a great way to take advantage of leverage. Let me go and do that for a couple of years. really get a solid amount of money locked away in the bank, and then I can get a little bit creative. I find all of these people I talk to, you know, who say to me, Lockie, you've got to be creative first and the money will come. I'm like, well, sure, but it's a lot easier to be creative if the money's already in the bank. And,
Yeah.
and again, I'll go out on a limb here, mate, if I can. I get a lot of emotional certainty out of having a large bank balance. Now, some people might giggle at that and go, oh, Lockie, it doesn't matter. You know, you'll get paid every week. Whereas I can sit back, you know, I sit back tomorrow morning, Monday morning, and effectively I don't have to go to work if I don't want to, which is, I suppose, kind of a cool thing. Am I going to go to work? Of course I am, because I love what I do. But I get a lot of emotional security out of having a bank balance where I can go, you know what? It kind of doesn't matter if we don't work for a year, we can get everything covered, kind of stuff. Now, I have had people say to me, oh, Lockie, you know, money shouldn't be so important for you. I said, yeah, sure. But I tell you what, when you don't have it, it's really attractive. And when you do have it, one of the most valuable lessons I've learned in life is once you do have a little bit of money, use that money to your advantage. And again, mate, if I could rewind the clock a little bit, wow, would I want to understand how leverage works? And I would want to understand, in my case here, how the financial markets actually work. I mean, right now, why is Donald Trump the best thing in the world for the finance markets? I never would have, you know, 14, 15, 16 years ago, I took my first trade when I was 17. And I mean, at that point in time, I could only trade up. So literally, I was what we call a buy, hold, and pray trader. Like, you buy stuff, you hold it for as long as you can. You're like, please go up. No one. I mean, mate, where's the course at high school that says, hey, Lockie, we're going to tell you how to short oil and long gold at the same time? Like, hey, do you know that gold is the global currency of fear? Like, no, I got learnt Pythagoras' triangle. I mean, how does...
Do you not use that when you're walking from building to building and cafe to cafe, Lockie?
Exactly. Of course, I can navigate from cafe, but man, I can't short sell oil. So why wasn't that explained to me at school? So
let me just summarize what you just said in terms of your key lesson. And this is coming from somebody who's well thought of in that financial space. You know, your biggest lesson, correct me if I'm wrong, is that more people should be comfortable with making money. And, you know, money is up there with oxygen. You know, you kind of can't live without it. So people need to become educated and comfortable and confident, would you say, with the making of and the generating of wealth?
Yeah, look, mate, you've absolutely nailed it. And what I would suggest to anyone who's watching this, you know, it's okay. It's okay to have a dream, and it's even more okay to then find a mechanism to fund it. Like, you know, I've got all these people like, oh, wow, I'd really love an Aston Martin. It's like, well, so what are you doing about paying for that? Oh, I'm going to the motor show every year and just looking at them. Well, you know, I don't want to be rude, but that ain't going to end up driving an Aston Martin. So don't be shy about getting really passionate about something you really, I mean, I might be getting into a little bit later on here, but find something you're really passionate about that you really understand. Like, for example, as an example, I'm really bad at sales. You know, so if you said to me, Lockie, I've got this gun sales job, you know, it's going to pay 200 grand a year. As much as I might be happy with the 200 grand, fact is I'm like, oh, sales, you know, it doesn't really suit my character. I actually don't like asking people for money. I don't know what it is, mate. There's this kind of emotional little block going on there. But man, put me in front of a NASDAQ chart, put me in front of 44,000 people at Wembley Stadium with Richard Branson on stage. I'll teach you how to trade oil and gold. But ask me to buy something or sell something to someone, I'm crap. So I think in understanding wealth generation for me is absolutely critical to happiness and success and freedom and all that kind of stuff. Make sure you're doing it with something that really floats your boat. You know, if someone gives you an idea and it doesn't really gel with you, don't run with it just out of sympathy for them. You know, be be man enough or woman enough to say, you know what, nah, it's just not my thing. They're not going to get offended. You know, they're not going to get offended. Funny thing is,
say that, Lockie, because I'm a big fan, and people that follow me know I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, and he always talks about, you know, those 3 concentric circles, and the middle one being why, which is ultimately linked to your passion. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's find that first, and the what and the how, you know, the mechanisms, the vehicles, the what you're going to do and the how you're going to do it. You know, that's a secondary. That passion is the kind of the key to one. Initially.
It is. And can I share something with you? I was on Malaysian. I was actually being interviewed on Malaysian television about two years ago, and I was predicting where the oil market was going to go. Mm-hmm. And funny thing being is that you know, the commentator on TV, this big Malaysian, he worked for Maybank, so it was quite a big TV show. He said, "So Lockie, what's your goal? Like, what's your passion? What drives you?" And I just looked at him straight at the TV camera and I said, "I want to have $1 billion impact on the world." And he kind of laughed at me and went, yeah. So how are you going to do that? I said, "Well, that's easy. I'm going to teach 1,000 people to be millionaires through trading. Is anyone interested?" And even the cameraman's like, I'll but if you want to, I suppose it brings up another topic, but my goal in life, the reason that I'm here is I want to have $1 billion impact on the world. Not so I can go, I've had $1 billion impact on the world. I know that if I do that, my life is financially sorted for generations, not just my generation, but generations from here on in. Yeah. And I think that's kind of exciting. I mean, you can set yourself up for success, which is brilliant. But if you're not setting your children up for success and their children up for success by them understanding this, and most of what we're talking about tonight, man, you don't get at school. You can't, for example, you can't do a uni degree in futures trading. It doesn't exist globally. And yet I had to write my own uni degree and then teach people what I know. And it was only through hard work, trial and error, getting slapped in the face by the market and going, "Oh, that doesn't work, better try something else." But I was so passionate about that $1 billion impact. So you nailed it. My why is to have $1 billion impact on the world. The how, I had to write the whole thing myself. And the best way to start, if you want to start, you know, sit down by yourself, not with other people, but sit down by yourself and ask the question, what do I want my life to look like? Write it down and then summarize it to about 10 words. I want to have $1 billion impact on the world, and then just go and do it, man. Don't sit back and go, I need someone to empower me. They're too busy empowering themselves.
So listen, let's go further down that. We've alluded to it a few times, but you know, looking back and you know, your kind of younger years, what do you wish you'd have been taught? I think you've alluded to it, you know, a couple of times, but let's really go a little bit deeper into what that looks like. You know, what do you believe that teenagers should be, or you wish you had, you know, been taught at high school, which would have set you up, you know, years in it?
Oh man, have we got like 5 hours here? So you're talking
as long as you want. Let's go.
All right. So I've got to put a shout out to my economics teacher, who in year 9 wrote on my school report, and I can show it to you. Lachlan is insolent and stupid and will never amount to anything. Now, what's super exciting is to have gone back to school as a major in the army, and he was a captain in the cadets. So guess what? He had to salute me and call me sir.
It's funny how life turns it around.
Oh, well, the funny thing is, mate, you don't have these little victories on purpose, but when they pop up, and that's a good point, guys and girls, you know, and I say guys and girls a lot, when you have a little victory, don't be afraid to celebrate it. Like you've got to celebrate the victories. You know, everyone's so busy moving, more. And yet if you achieve a personal goal, then take a day off and celebrate it. Otherwise life gets a bit boring. Your question, mate, your question is stunning. If I could go back to a younger me, I would want to understand 2 things. I would want to understand leverage. And as a subset of that, I would want to understand the power of money. Now, I suppose we could break the power of money into 2 subsets as well. I would want to understand effectively, what would you call it, fiscal responsibility. So what I mean by that is, you know, at the age of 17, I bought an HSV Commodore. So I spent my entire wealth at that point in time on a depreciating asset, which is just, in hindsight, probably not that smart, but I was so heavily focused on what will people think of me if I have an HSV Commodore. It was all about what will people think of me? What, you know,
Yeah.
I really wish, and I'm doing it to my boys already. You know, I've got two beautiful boys. They're 5 and 3. They're a long way from they're a long way from a car, but I'm already sort of, I'll use a military word, inculcating into them that it doesn't really actually matter what other people think. What matters is what you think. And if you are on the right path, then you need to back yourself and you need to keep rolling. When it comes to, if I could talk about fiscal responsibility, understanding what an asset is versus a liability, understanding what a credit card actually means, understanding that, let's say I pick on National Australia Bank, for example, NAB currently has a AAA rating. Now, what does that mean? It means that if you put $1 into NAB, into a savings account, NAB can loan that out 17 times. So let's say you got $100,000 in your mortgage offset with NAB. NAB can loan $1.7 million in credit card interest on your mortgage offset account. So they're earning 24, 25, 26% return on $1.7 million, and you're saving yourself 2% return per year. Good on you. So, and I don't want to sound like an arrogant little person, but I was going to say something really rude then, but I won't. But mate, if I understood financial leverage properly, and I understood the scourge that is a credit card, and I understood the power of positive gearing versus negative gearing, so much so that I'm working on a book, literally about teaching 4-year-olds, you know, why does a bank make so much money? What can you do to become your own personal bank? You know, the property developers, one of my little side, I suppose it's called a side hustle. As you said, I'm one of the founding shareholders and one of the founding directors of a company called Beyond Capital Asset Management. Now, that's a funds management company and a property subdivision company. So we've got, I mean, like right now as we record this, we've got 60 apartments going up in Brisbane. We've just done a 75 lot subdivision north of Newcastle, and stage 1 sold out over 3 stages. We've got a whole lot of cool stuff going on. I'm not a property developer, but all of those developments are funded without finance. They're all cash funded. So what it means is if the project goes a year over time, it doesn't matter. If we were financing that through a bank or through mezzanine finance, that extra year of development would send the development bankrupt. Like, we're talking amazing victory versus, oh dear, we screwed up.
Yeah.
So look, man, if I had my time again, if I could go back to my economics teacher, or my commerce teacher, I should say, in year 9, I would say, please explain how the banking system actually works. Please explain why I shouldn't have a credit card. Just explain the difference between credit and debit. If you will, explain the difference between fiscally intelligent people and those that may not be as fiscally sharp. And to give you an idea, mate, to prepare for my book, which has been like this long-going passion that I'm working on, I've actually interviewed 6 families who are super high net wealth individuals. Like, we're talking, you know, a couple of hundred million in the bank kind of stuff. And I've sat down with them and I've interviewed them about, how do you think about money? And then I've gone and interviewed, like, they're 4th, 5th, 6th generation super wealthy. And then I've gone and interviewed 6 families who are not. And wait, the difference, like, you know, like one of these super wealthy families will not permit their children under any circumstances to have a credit card. And dare I say it, the first thing they do for their 18th birthday is give them an investment property and say, okay, you now own a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car apartment in the middle of the Gold Coast. So you never need to have a personal mortgage. All of your mortgages will always be through companies, so the interest is tax deductible. Just these little things, mate. Just like a proprietary limited company has more than 500 tax deductions. You and I as a PAYG, we get about 220. So why weren't we taught to do everything through companies? You know, la, 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 la. Now, mate, I'm pretty busy, so my book is a long way away. So please don't ask when it's going to be released.
No, but what I will ask is for people watching this, you know, in terms of those first steps, there's a lot of books out there. Just give me one or two books that you believe would be that first exposure, you know, to better understanding this fiscal system and assets versus liabilities and things like that. Somewhere that people can go, you know, that's what we want to give people, is definite things that they can do today.
Perfect. So, I've worked with Robert Kiyosaki and Kim Kiyosaki in the past, and I'm doing a JV with the Kiyosakis as we speak. So the first port of call would be to actually read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah. Okay, that's again, I know it's a little bit old, it's a little bit long in the tooth, but Rich Dad Poor Dad is brilliant. Also, I happen to have it on my desk, but I would not ever look past this book right here. Okay, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He's like the original author. There's a lot of people that have copied his stuff. So I'd go for the original. There's no doubt. Mm-hmm. So if you want a book on, you know, what smart money looks like, then the Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad, stunning. But what I would suggest though, guys and girls, and for yourself, of course, mate, is that it's one thing to have money. So you might get quite good in business and start making good money, you know, really good money. Well, guess what? You got to keep it.
Yeah.
When people say to me, Lockie, you know, is day trading the markets a get rich quick scheme? It's like, no, it's a get wealthy slowly and learn how to keep it scheme. And some people giggle at me and go, oh, where'd you get that from? I said, my own book. So I think that if you're going to become successful, there's one thing to have the mechanism to earn the money, but you've also got to have the psychology and the mentality to keep it. And you'd be amazed at a number of people that become first generation super wealthy and then lose it in the second generation because they're all driving Ferraris on finance.
Yeah, you see that with lottery winners, don't you? You know, and you know, they lose it straight away. And there's the saying where, you know, if every single wealthy person was to lose everything tomorrow, within 5 to 10 years, that same money would be in the hands of the same people.
Of course. Like, psychology. Once you know how money rolls, mate, money will work for you, mate, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and will never go to Fair Work Australia. Let's master money.
No, absolutely. Listen, let's go. I love those two books. Those two books, I must admit, Think and Grow Rich is, I'm surprised the number of people in the education space don't know that book. It's the second most read book next to the Bible. But Robert Kiyosaki's book was the first book I ever properly read. That was a catalyst for me. So for you to say that, you know, that Rich Dad Poor Dad, you know, the whole series, not just the first one, but then the subsequent ones after that, that started my thirst. That really like just blew the doors off. You know, what the poor teach and what the rich teach is definitely that first lesson that got me on this.
Nailed it. It's not only one of the first lessons, but I'd be amazed. Obviously, you'd be amazed. I'm amazed at literally just interviewing families that don't have a great deal versus those people that do. The first thing they do, the moment you mention money, like, oh, what the rich guys down at the marina. And I'm like, there's nothing. Have you heard the expression, the filthy rich?
Yeah. Psychologically, it's dripped into our youth. You know, I say to children, finish this sentence. And I'll say things like, you know, money doesn't grow on. And they finish it off, tree. You know, rich won't make you happy. And it's as though psychologically they have been Well, they have in a way. They've kind of been brainwashed.
Oh,
And the psychology between people that have it and people that don't is that money is evil, you know, and it's the root of all evil. And we use all of these sayings to our children, and subliminally, the messages that we actually provide, we're actually giving them, is detrimental to the wealth generation, for their generation, but for future.
Well, mate, as I said to you,
people miss that.
Yeah, look, I took my first trade when I was 17, and one thing I'm going to say to everybody is, what's so filthy about being rich? The second thing I'd suggest to anybody is when I was around about 11, you know, I remember asking my parents for something, and literally, do you think that money grows on trees? And within about 4 or 5 seconds, I went back and said, well, it's made of paper, so it must. Wrong thing to say. Boom.
But Lucky, let's look at, if you were to lose everything.
Yeah.
You know, you were to lose your businesses, your companies, your name as an author, you know, your reputation, your net worth, because we all know that is obviously your net worth. You were to lose everything except for your knowledge. What would you do? Where would you start, and what would you do for a bit of a game plan to get back to where you're at?
Wow, mate, you could literally put me at ground zero tomorrow, and I would personally interpret it as a challenge. Like, I think that, you know, that's actually, people told me, oh, you'll never get into the army, whatever. You know, you'll never launch your own brand. I love trading. Really? You'll never launch your books. Really? So, mate, if you put me back at ground zero tomorrow, and I had my current knowledge, so my knowledge about I'll take you on a little tangent if I can. About 12 years ago, I discovered, much to my amazement, that banks like Westpac, NAB, you know, Macquarie Bank, all these banks, I actually realized or found out that banks don't trade with brokers. So most people around the world think, okay, if I'm going to trade the financial markets, like I want to trade Forex or options or CFDs, or I want to buy shares, I have to go through a broker. And yet my first day at my trading apprenticeship at the bank, I found out that banks don't use brokers. And I thought to myself, well, hang on a second. So if banks don't use brokers, that means they don't pay any brokerage. The bank's like, absolutely. Why would we pay brokerage? We're a bank. And I'm suddenly going, all right, so all the mums and dads around the world are paying brokerage, like all the Forex traders globally pay a ridiculous amount of brokerage, but the banks don't. And talk about slap in the face question, talk about knowledge. So I said to my mentor at the bank, oh, that must be a bank privilege. Like, yeah, it's just the banks that can trade without brokers. And he goes, no, mate. Anyone in the world can. You just have to ask the right question. Excuse me? So
you don't know what you don't know.
No, that's it. You don't know what you don't know. So 6 weeks after I started my apprenticeship at the bank, I left because I'd actually outperformed my annual trading goal in 6 weeks. And I thought, you know what? I ain't going to do this for the bank. I'm going to go and do this for mums and dads. So understanding that I have a knowledge of how to trade the financial markets without a broker. The first thing I would do is go to a friend and say, can I please borrow a laptop? Because clearly I need a laptop to access the finance markets. Then I'd have to go to somebody, maybe, I don't know, maybe parents, or I go to a bank and say, hey, give me 2 weeks to show you what I can achieve on my laptop. And then I'd like a $10,000 loan to fund my trading account, which I could probably get that 10 grand back to them in 2 weeks. So then I'd have a laptop on loan, and I had 10 grand in my bank account, and all I'd seek to do is maybe 4 to 5% return on that 10 grand per day. So that'd be, well, what would that be? That'd be $400 to $500 a day in income, and I would build myself back up to having a couple of $100,000 in the bank. Once I got back to a couple of hundred grand in the bank, I'd say, okay, I'm fiscally, I wouldn't say fiscally amazing, I'm fiscally safe now. So now I'm going to give back my borrowed laptop and go and buy one. And then I just get on, but then I just get on with the job of I mean, what I do is so simple that it's actually quite scary. And all your ego wants to do is go, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that, you just can't do it, man. It's like, but all I do, for those watching, all I do is trade the market up and down every day using a 5-minute chart. Every 5 minutes, it's either controlled by the buyers or controlled by the sellers. And because I don't trade with brokers, I can take advantage of the market up and down every single day. And mate, all I would do is grab that knowledge and grab that understanding about sort of broker-free financial markets. And I'd say, righto, let's borrow a laptop, let's borrow some money, let's get it up and running. And I'm going to prove to people how good I am. And within a week or 2 weeks, I'd give all the money back and say, okay, thanks for the loan. There's your interest. And by the way, I've got a 10 grand account. And I mean, even to get 4 or 5% return a day, but you're back to $400 a day. There's not a lot of people that can put their hand on their heart and say, okay, well, I earn $400 a day for maybe an hour's work or 2 hours work.
No, not a lot of people at all. Listen, you said before about leverage, because you've got that knowledge. You could absolutely go and kind of establish yourself. Let's say, for instance, people that don't, and I'm tying it into that word leverage before, like how do you leverage other people if you didn't have that knowledge?
Oh, wow. So if I didn't have the knowledge, that's actually a really top question. If I didn't
it's
have
probably the question that most people have got, because most people don't have your knowledge, and people are wanting that path or things that they can start to do to put them in a position to be like that in the future.
But it's a stunning question. I would basically, let's say I had no knowledge about the financial markets, had absolutely none, but I knew they existed. For example, in fact, am I allowed to have one tiny bit of knowledge? Okay, the tiny bit of knowledge is that the S&P 500, which is the American stock market, turns over $3.147 trillion per day. So that's my only piece of knowledge. If it's at 3.147 trillion, not billion, trillion. So what I would do is I would follow the money like a wolf and hunting a scent. I'd be like, well, you know what? If that market turns over 3.147 trillion a day, I'm going to find someone that's trading it really well, and I'm going to volunteer my time for free to learn what they do. I might start as the mail dude, literally delivering letters, but I would go to where the money's at. I'd go to where the people are proven to earn the money. I wouldn't go to the people that talk about it all day. So I wouldn't go to the Koshis and the financial commentators of the world. I'm very well with Koshi, but I wouldn't go to Koshi. I'd actually go to a trading house and say, you guys are famous traders. You've got the top performing hedge fund in Australia. Can I volunteer here for 3 months? And mate, I'd have no issue sleeping on my parents' couch. No issue at all. If I was working with somebody that was running one of the top hedge funds in Australia, very quickly, I would learn the art of what they do. So I would go to the people that have the runs on the board. I wouldn't go to the people that talk about it. I'd go to the actual people doing it, boys and girls, and say, hey, listen, I have no knowledge about what you do, but you have access to what I want. You have access to the cash. Can I work with you for 3 months? And it's not going to cost you a cent. You'd be amazed.
We talk about this all the time, Lockie, in terms of, and you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and what you basically just said then, to summarize, is mentorship, is finding people or a group of people or a person that has done what you want to do, but volunteer your services, literally be that sponge to learn all of those intricate lessons. We can give the general kind of lessons, but then you need to get into the micro kind of detail, and that's where mentorship comes in, and power groups and things like that, masterminds. That's what you're basically saying, is it?
Look, you're spot on the mark. An interesting point. What I have found in my own personal experience is those people that are doing really well in life, like, they've got a couple of runs on the board, got a couple of $1 million in the bank. they don't mind helping you. If you go to them and say, hey, listen, I want to be you. Can I hang around you for free? I'll get you coffee. I'll pour your sugar. I'll fill up your car. Can I just be the bottom rung of the ladder? They don't say no. It's the people with 50 grand in the bank that are trying to hold on to a secret that say no. But I'm not asking to work with them. I'm asking to work with the multi-millionaires who have runs on the board already. And mate, that's how I got into the bank.
Hey, 9 times out of 10, they remember when they were in the same position.
Nailed it, mate. Because
and they just want that maybe not a generational kind of family transition, but they want to help as many people as possible because they know what it's like to be in that situation.
Absolutely.
When you speak to them, they're more than happy to open up the box and show you the tools that they use. Because
mate, to give you an idea, okay, I was emailing a promoter in Melbourne because I was trying to launch myself about 10 years ago, and I was emailing a promoter who's an amazing guy. Emailing, no response. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to fly down to Melbourne and stand outside his office. So I did. Came to work. Who are you? I'm the guy that's been emailing you. Oh, yeah, you're Lockie, right? I said, yeah. And he goes, what are you doing here? I said, well, you won't respond to my email. So I came to say,
you can't ignore me now.
Can't ignore me. He goes, well, mate, look, come in. I'll give you 5 minutes. I walked out with a contract and we did $1 million of sales in 8 weeks. So don't be afraid. Back yourself. If you know what you've got works, back yourself.
Yeah.
Back yourself.
Listen, we're coming to the end, Lockie, of this interview, but what I want to do is just give you the opportunity to summarize or to go over any final points, real nuggets for people to take away today as to, what have been your key lessons, that you would give to people for them to really grab hold of and take somewhere like you obviously have.
Oh, look, that's brilliant. Okay, so my first point, if I can, shed light on the military, because I spent 18 months training in Australia and basically 13 years away overseas. So I've got a couple of medals and a couple of experiences, there's no doubt. What I learned from one of the most incredible colonels in the army, his name was Colonel John Black. I also learned from a guy, Colonel Jim McMahon, very famous, very, very famous in the army. They both taught me that everything in the army has been done before. So find somebody that's really, really good at what you want and just copy them. Like, every mountain's been climbed before, every ocean's been swum before. So find somebody that's climbed the mountain and use their experience. You don't have to sit here spinning a pencil at your desk going, how the hell do I make $1 million a day? Find someone that's making $1 million a day and ask them, what do you do? I think that would be my military lesson.
Mm-hmm.
My lesson from life post-military, which are two very, very different lives. I mean, in the military, everyone backed you. Every moment of the day, you had a team. The moment I entered the finance industry, I found out it's dog eat dog, and they will eat you to get on top of you. It's just like, wow, different industry.
Yeah, completely.
Understanding that though, military lesson, everything that you want to do has been done before. So if you want to invent an app, work with someone who's invented an app. If you want to trade the financial markets really well, work with someone who's actually doing it as opposed to someone who's talking about it. Flip side of that would be understand money properly. Understand that wealthy people are wealthy because they're smart about not only their day-to-day expenses, but they're smart about credit versus debit versus leverage. There was I think it was Warren Buffett. I'd have to double check, when he was said, what's the number one tip to being wealthy? And he said, never have a credit card. And it was like, and he said, tip number 2 is never lose your capital. The guy's, I think, one of the most wealthy traders in the world. My personal experience, mate, is my personal journey has been a very interesting one because when I wanted to learn to trade. So where did I go? I went to a bank that makes millions of dollars a week trading. I only lasted 6 weeks in the bank before I thought, you know what? I can do this for a bank and the career is going to be really, really rosy, but they expect 12 to 14 hours a day. I don't want to do that. I want to do 4 or 5 hours a day, maybe, and slowly get better and better and do 60 minutes a day. So my tip to everybody is, if you want to be really good at something and you want to work hard at something over a longer period, 4, 5, 6, 7, in my case, 12 years, you've got to be really passionate about what you do. Like, you've got to be hungry for why it works. You're not going to become a lawyer just because, you know, you want to be a lawyer. You become a lawyer because you're hungry about the law. You're hungry about, you know, you know, might be hungry about, you know, commercial litigation, or hungry about this. The people that last in a career for a long time are those people that are super hungry about why the whole thing works, you know, and dare I say it, you find out how the whole thing works, and then you want to invent your own thing and make it work even better. Yeah. That's what I've done. A lot of people told me that trading doesn't work. You know, if trading didn't work, man, I wouldn't be trading 12 years later. This week we had 17 winning trades in a row out of 17. So if trading doesn't work, then I must have just jagged it this week, right? Be very careful also, mate. Be very, very careful to take on the opinion of others. And in my case, I don't take on other people's opinions unless they're multi-millionaires. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to take on the opinion of someone down at the pub who's scratching every week to you know, to pay their bills. They might have an opinion and they're entitled to that opinion. It's absolutely amazing. But do I listen? I pretend I'm listening, but mate, do I actually put any value or weight in their opinion? No, I don't. You know, I'm open to opinions from all over the world, but because my thing is cash, my thing is, let's work towards having a great bank balance so you can be that creative artist. You know, you could be the singer, the songwriter, the pianist. It doesn't matter what you want to be, but if you've got a big lump of cash behind you, it actually doesn't matter if you fail as a pianist. It doesn't matter if you record an album and no one buys it. But if you're recording that album with your last $10 and no one buys it, you got a big problem. So my opinion is,
you called it emotional stability or emotional kind of clarity. You know, if you've got that money in that back pocket, you know, you're not scraping around. We talk about posture, you know, and I think that's what you're alluding to, isn't it? You know, if you can put your own mask on, you know, you can make sure that you've got your own bank balance, your own cash flow, your own understanding of wealth. Then you can be creative with all these other projects, and you can diversify and all of that stuff.
Well, it's a great point you raise, because I've got, you know, 2 little boys, 5 and 3 at the moment, and they're absolutely amazing. You know, and they're saying to me, Lockie, you know, they say to me, Daddy, you know, I really want to be a policeman. I said, okay, that's okay. That's cool. I mean, I love the fact you want to be a policeman, but are you aware they get paid $64,000 a year? What does that mean, Daddy? Well, that means no private schools, probably no holidays, and no fancy cars. Oh, so I think, you know, if somebody says to you, oh, you know, hey, mate, I want to do this. I mean, you've got some beautiful kids. Hey, Daddy, I want to do this. I want to do that. You know, my first response is, let's talk about the fiscal meaning of that. You know, I mean, you know, I want to be, me personally, man, I want to be the lead pilot on the Westpac rescue helicopter out of the Gold Coast. That's my fantasy job. Like, oh my gosh, fantasy job. He's on 82 grand a year. Now I know him because I actually give money to the Westpac chopper, so much so I get to go down and play with the Westpac chopper. I'm not allowed to go flying in it, but you know, I know how much these captains are on, and I'm thinking to myself, well, so my cunning plan is this, mate. I'm going to become super wealthy, and then I'm going to go to Westpac and say, hey, my dream job is to fly your Westpac helicopter. I'm now a fully qualified pilot. By the way, it's not going to cost you anything to hire me. I'm going to donate my time as your lead pilot. Now, do you think Westpac's going to go, no, we won't take you. We want to pay someone else 82 grand a year to do that job? Or do you think they're going to go, oh, this guy's... So in that case, but you can have the best intent in the world. You can have the best intent in the world. But in my humble opinion, if you can't bankroll that sensibly, it's going to end up being a fantasy. So find the thing that you can do that you're passionate about that might bankroll you to do what you love.
Yeah.
I love health. I love well-being. I love educating people about, you know, chemicals in makeup and, you know, if you're an O blood type, don't eat milk and all this kind of stuff. But right now, am I going to make a lot of money out of telling, oh, blood types don't eat milk? No. And it's going to take me 6 years to get a degree to get paid 100 grand a year to do that. So therefore, be passionate. I call it a side hustle. Be passionate about your side hustle, but don't expect it to pay you a lot of money, because it's a side hustle. It's the thing you do when you're not doing the thing you're really passionate about that pays you really good money. And look, I might be a little bit money centric, and you know, if I've offended anybody, I apologize for that. But you know, again, having a big bank balance gives you the opportunity to go, you know what, I ain't going to work this week and I'm going to finish writing my book, or I'm going to spend time with a multimillionaire, just asking them questions like, how come you've got a Lamborghini and I have a Prado? Like, what do you do? What do you do that I don't do? Mate, the super wealthy people will be so happy to answer that question, because they're basically sitting around doing nothing anyway. So they're quite happy to help. So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
Mate, that's absolutely gold. And I just want to thank you very much for your time, wisdom, insight, and just gold and nuggets that you've been dropping throughout that interview. And hopefully people kind of got that, you know, and the key lessons were priceless. So I'm sure people took a lot of value and took a lot of lessons away from that. But more importantly, the ability to then apply things along this, you know, journey that we call life. So again, Lachlan, thank you very much for your interview tonight, and we will speak soon.
I appreciate that. And for everybody, you know, thank you so much for having me. And I hope that there's been a little gem of wisdom you can jump on and take advantage of it. Follow your passion, but please do something that actually pays you really good money, and then your side hustles become really good fun. So.
Beautiful. Cool. Mate, thank you very much. And
awesome.
see you soon.
See ya. Bye.